to Pogačar washed way.
Ooh, is that what we're calling this?
Yep.
Pogačar is washed, yeah.
He's washed.
Less than 24 hours.
I mean, he got beat by like a 40-year-old lawyer. So, you know. Welcome back to Spin Cycle, everybody. I'm Kaylee Fress. Today on the show, carbon monoxide is back in the news. The Dutch love to chase each other, and Pogačar got beaten by a dude. Let's get to it. Welcome back, Kit Nicholson. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
It's just sort of occurred to me that there's a wheel growing out of the side of your head.
It's a whole bicycle, actually. In fact, there are two, as you can see.
You do have a nice little setup back there. And Dane Cash, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are we?
I'm good. We just learned that you have to blood dope on a regular basis, Dane.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah,
Yep,
definitely.
yep.
Yeah. If that were true, my Strava would be a lot more impressive, but it is not.
I like referencing things that we talked about off mic
Yeah.
to confuse the
Yeah.
audience. It's good.
Oh, it's going to make Discord an absolute, I don't know, chaos later.
Guess on Discord what causes Dane to have to blood dope.
Yeah, that's a fun challenge.
Yeah. It's not actually really. It's sort of the opposite of blood doping.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite. You don't put it back in, so that's the problem. Yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
And you wouldn't want to either.
That's very true. Let's get to it. We had Lombardia over the weekend. How quickly could we get through Lombardia? I kid. We actually have a number of things we want to talk about. Kit, you're on over the weekend. Why don't you give us the rundown? Just the what happened, and then we'll talk about
I think I'm going to try and do it without... I should close the door to my gas meter. The gas man came the other day.
Oh.
Anyway, I should try and do it without saying Pogačar's name, really, shouldn't I? Just for fun.
But you've already just done it.
Well, there we go. That's the summary. Done. No, well, you know who, the world champion.
Voldemort.
He attacked 30. Well, he attacked
He's
36
not Voldemort.
kilometers.
What am
out.
I saying?
He's not. Let's
He was
anyway.
actually in a great mood over the weekend. We're gonna talk.
He
about
was end of
Yeah.
season sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah, he attacked from the epic UAE train 36 kilometers to go. Quinn Simmons was the only attacker left out front. He was the first attacker of the day, I believe. So he gave him a good run for their money, but he was caught and passed very quickly, and that was it.
Can I shout out Quinn?
You can shout out Quinn.
At least he tried.
Yeah, you did.
Yes,
Something.
I agree.
Great race.
At least he did something.
Rather
right?
like the weekend
he attacked
before.
from the gun, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was the first guy off the front.
And then he did like 350 watts for 5-something hours. And then I was looking at the power profiles. I know we've talked about Quinn's power before, but it blows my mind. Then he did like 400 something, like low 400s for a couple minutes while getting passed by Tadej Pogačar.
Yeah,
right?
he spent 500 meters on Pogačar's wheel.
Right.
There was that kind of bit like when Pogačar caught Pellizzari at the Giro last year, when he kind of went, "Hey, get on my wheel, get on my wheel." And there seemed to be a little conversation, but although apparently both of them have now said to various media outlets, neither of us could say anything.
Right.
But it looked like there was a kind of see if you can stick with me kind of thing. But yeah,
You still finished the top 5.
But
too.
and he had been on his own for by that point 50 kilometers.
Right. I mean, just in terms of straight like kilojoules of work,
It was a lot of work.
he did way more than
It's a
Pogačar
big
did.
day.
That's for darn sure.
Oh, for sure.
Super impressive. I do think that if you're looking for, if you're like, okay, I would like some visual cues to understand when a rider is hurting. If you look at the sort of 30 seconds before Quinn gets dropped by Pogačar, he does this thing where he kind of like gets into the saddle, out of the saddle, into the saddle, out of the saddle, because nothing is working, basically. And if you're ever sort of watching a bike race and you see a rider start to do this, pretty good indicator that they're about to blow sky high, which is exactly what Quinn did, despite the fact that, like we said, a super impressive, like just physically impressive bike ride.
And like you said, otherwise it would have been a lead out to the Paso de Ganda. And
Yeah.
that would have
I
been
mean, it still kind of was, but
It
at
was.
least there was a guy up the road.
But there was the tiny kind of 1% of peril.
And then when
Attached.
Pogačar went, the one rider who we all thought maybe kind of, probably not, but maybe had a chance, Evenepoel, like
didn't even
there was
try.
zero there was zero indication that he was at all remotely interested in following when Pogačar went. So it was very, very quickly, obviously, the Pogačar show.
And a big chapeau to Michael Storer.
Yeah.
First
he had
ever
a great
monument.
run.
He's had a great end of season. I mean, he's a great year actually. But he's I think this was his 5th one day podium, including he's had a couple of wins this year. Obviously, this is his first monument podium.
And the
big,
biggest one
big
by
result.
far.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's his first ever monument podium. That's a pretty big deal. And yeah, he stuck with Evenepoel until the descent, when Evenepoel just went full beans and he couldn't stick with them any longer. But yeah, it was big day.
I'm gonna sound like Ronan here, but I think Storer's bars are too wide.
Are they legal though? Are everyone's bars going to be the same as his next year?
Well, no, because I think his are well wider than legal. Or maybe his shoulders are just incredibly narrow, but I don't know. I've stood in front of him. I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Well, he's a very small guy. That might be part of it. It makes it look like they're,
It is, because you do like, well, particularly if the bar rules sort of fully go into place next year, you're going to see that in the women's peloton. It's going to look kind of ridiculous. It's going to look like everyone's like, riding a mountain bike. But he's not that small. Like, he's small,
no, but he is. He's a bit like.
He's not like Quintana small.
No, but he is a bit like Matthew Riccatello in that his kind of his shoulders don't take up an awful lot of space.
Yeah.
He's kind of triangular in the wrong direction. No,
Still.
he's not triangular in any way at all. But he's quite narrow.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, I've personally experienced this before. I was riding like a not really race bike at the Iron Horse Bicycle Classic against a friend of mine who was very, 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 very aerodynamic, and the place that he was successfully dropping me was down all of the hills, right? And that's exactly what it looked like with Storer and Evenepoel. Is you've got one guy who's basically the most aerodynamic thing on the planet,
Yes,
and then a rider who looks like he could maybe spend some time on his road bike in the wind tunnel, because those descents, like, I'm actually kind of surprised more GC tape riders don't do that, because if you are wasting energy on the way down,
they used to, didn't they?
Aero,
and there's stories from the olden days
Some of them definitely
like
have.
5 or 10 years ago when they raced in Sierra Nevada, and you'd have riders crashing into each other. And
some of them, I mean, Evenepoel's obviously spent a ton of time in a wind tunnel, both on a TT bike and his regular road bike. But yeah, anyway, I'm not Michael Storer's technical person. I just put my Ronin hat on for a second there, and he looked like the bars are just really wide. And if that's the case, if I'm sort of right about that, there is no amount of sprinting out of corners that is going to keep you on Evenepoel's wheel. It's just purely a technical problem at that point.
it's a fair question. I don't know the answer to it.
Okay, so other storylines from Lombardia, because we are skipping straight past.
Well,
past
Evenepoel's
Pogačar.
last race for Soudal Quickstep after 7 very successful years. That's quite a big deal.
He did a little point at the jersey. Thank you.
He did. He spent a lot of
That was
time
nice.
on his radio in the last kilometre.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, singing his thank yous to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of acrimonious splits that make the news in cycling, but this feels like this wasn't that way, and I think he's grateful to the team, and for sure it was. He changed this team. I mean, this was the Classics team, and then they spent the last 3 or 4 years as not that, for better or
Changed
worse.
it for the worse.
For better or worse, and now they're going to kind of bounce back. I think in the other direction, but.
Well, it did become a vehicle for Evenepoel. It kind of completely kind of interrupted its own path, and like you say, the incoming riders.
Well, now the guy that finished 19th at Lombardia is clear to go win the Tour de France.
Is
so
that
I'm happy.
Mikel Landa?
Mikel Landa, yeah.
Yes, go Mikel.
So that's good.
Del Toro did not look invincible.
No,
He looked good, but not great.
No,
Yeah.
he was. We should point out that he was was he the last 5? Anyway, on that climb when Pogačar went,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
he was sat on Pogačar's wheel. Clearly, the idea was that he'd hang around with Evenepoel. Actually, no. So Seixas, no, he dropped before Seixas. Then Paul Seixas, youngest top 10 finisher in a monument in 100 years. Another
That's a good stat.
feather in Paul Seixas's hat.
That's a good stat.
Yeah.
Just
so
turned 19.
Who was it?
Just
somebody,
turned 19.
Somebody said over the weekend that he thinks he's better than Pogačar at the same age. Who said that? I saw that somewhere.
Was it Cycling Up to Date?
It's,
Was
yeah,
it
because
one
if
of
it was,
the-
it was
one of
some
the
podcaster.
one of the pundits on a podcast
Yeah.
on another podcast.
No. It was a rider.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I'm now completely. I should have made a note of
Yeah.
this. we'll talk about.
Oh, it was Thibaut Pinot. It was Thibaut Pinot.
It was. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. He said he's better. He's between Pogačar and Evenepoel at that age, because Evenepoel had already won San Sebastian and a bunch of things.
Right.
Pogačar had done the Vuelta and won 3 stages, but not won. So
he won the Tour of California.
He won the Tour of California that year. So success is between in Pinot's world, between the accomplishments of Evenepoel and, I mean, yeah, you can't really argue with that. You can argue with the metrics.
Yeah. He also, I think, proved.
He is bloody good.
This is a performance that you would maybe not expect from any other 19-year-old, given the length. I mean, so
that's what Del Toro may have come up against as well.
Right, and I think that they're just kind of getting used to that. I mean, the monuments are they're longer.
And Del Toro has been leaned on a lot in the past month.
Oh, he's been absolutely incredible. He's won 6 one-days, but like this is the longest of them, I think, and he's already probably getting a little fatigue. And the team has another guy that can lead the way, so he doesn't have the same amount of pressure on him. But in general, I think it was impressive.
Yeah, maybe kind of comes back to the thing I was talking about a couple episodes ago about suffering and pain, and like you kind of have to have a real reason to put yourself in the box that deeply, and maybe that's part of it as well.
If your leader is already up the road, why bother?
Yeah. why am I bleeding on my eyeballs here when my teammate is going to win anyway?
And if you're if you're going for 5th, I feel like there's nothing like, all right, you're going to get a top 5. 4th, nobody cares. Like nobody cares 4 or 5, right? So,
and Delta. I mean, you might if you were 22 and had only ever finished in the top 10 before. But Del Toro has got so many wins and with big results that 5th is.
Can we bid adieu to a couple?
We should.
Big names. Rafa Micah, I think, being the biggest one. Pogačar was actually really sweet, I think.
Yeah, that was great.
I loved the salute moment.
Yeah. And I feel like the sort of like guard of honor with the spinning wheels thing has become more and more common. That was pretty rare not that long ago.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Now we get it for a lot of these riders.
It actually helps us out quite a lot because Louis Meintjes turned up in that guard of honor, and I had no idea. And in fact, I don't know that nobody knew. His team didn't announce that he'd be there in that guard of honor. Louis Meintjes then did say, "Nah, I'm done. Thanks."
He also had a good career.
He did, and he spoke to our pal Dan Chalice before the Giro about he was considering retirement. I mean, he would have to be. He has apparently been considering retirement for a few years. There are some quotes to that effect in the piece I put this weekend. I added some Louis Meintjes quotes from that interview with Dan, and they were really great quotes. I mean, he was the most. He finished the 20th Grand Tour he'd started at the Vuelta this year. He finished 18th and 16th in his last 2 Grand Tours, which were the Giro and the Vuelta this year, which is not bad.
Not bad, yeah.
I mean, it's in your retirement year, that's pretty darn good.
He was a consistent top, I would say top 10.
He was top 10 4 times.
He got five top 10s, and twice he missed out to the Yates twins. In consecutive Tours de France for the white jersey, which is slightly galling, I imagine. But it's still he was one of those guys who and there's Meintjes who's gonna light things up when Froome is kind of grinding away, looking at his stem.
Dane, you really like Rafa Micah.
Well, I feel like I feel like his own career exploits they're so far in the past for some people now they might not. Like if you got into the sport in the last 3 or 4 years, you would have just seen him doing what he did at Lombardia, which is setting up the UAE leader du jour, usually Pogačar. And yet, he won 2 polka dot jerseys. I mean, he lit up Grand Tour stages, was a very constant 1-week stage racer.
He was also, he finished 3rd at the Vuelta.
That's right, yeah.
In 2018, 19.
This all before he became. We had 6 or 7 top 10s in Grand Tours. All before he kind of became this.
It's a huge deal.
This sort of second life that he had in his career as Pogačar's like chief lieutenant in a lot of the Grand Tours, and it was all extremely impressive. And I think, I sort of hope that people remember he was actually quite good.
He also carried himself really, really well and gave great interviews. And he's been I think he's wound up the press quite frequently, which is a lot of fun. He'll give a quote that is complete bollocks, but obviously we lowly press folk carry these things.
That's what we gotta do.
Yeah. But yeah, he's a great rider.
Pop quiz, both of you. This is related to our Lefric book club. Because I've just been, as I've mentioned numerous times already, been rereading that over the course of the last week in the little gaps in between my parenting and work duties. Why was the climber's jersey brought into the Tour de France?
Was it for Rafa Micah?
It was not for Rafa
No,
Micah.
I have no idea.
Educate us.
They just wanted money.
Oh,
of course they did.
It's
an extra sponsorship. Bloody hell, obviously.
I've been thinking. Speaking of which, I've been thinking about this this book club.
I've had some messages about this. Carry on.
There's people excited about.
Oh yeah.
I think we've probably doubled Alex Duff's book sales for 2025. Anyway, we're going to do something. It's probably going to be a members only thing. I think that seems fair. So maybe a reason to sign up if
also,
you're not already.
Besides anything else, it helps us to restrict the numbers because too many people is.
Yeah. But so the way that I think we should probably do it is kind of break the book up into bits. So I'll explain this maybe more in After Dark today, but just so everyone's aware, if you're not a member, you need to get on that because we're going to do the book club. I'm sure we can get Alex back on to talk about the book at the end as well.
We definitely ought to.
Yeah, considering Wade chatted with him, I think it's spring, right? Or last winter sometime. Anyway, you both failed the pop quiz. Sorry.
We really shouldn't have failed that day. That was an easy one.
Let's move on to Pogačar washed way.
Ooh, is that what we're calling this?
Yep.
Pogačar is washed, yeah.
He's washed.
Less than 24 hours.
I mean, he got beat by a 40-year-old lawyer. So, who wants to explain?
I shall explain. So this headline caught my attention partly because I recognised the name, and it is a very good name, as will become very clear. Andrew Feather. Now, anyone who's been around Escape for a little while and enjoys our galleries might remember the name too, because he was actually the national hill climb champion in the UK 2 years ago. So he featured in the gallery that we put together. It was one of those kind of unique off-season things that we like to throw up every so often. So Andrew Feather turned up to the Poggy Challenge, which is, I think, a relatively new, if not brand new, event that Pogačar has spawned this year. And so the idea, besides it's obviously it's one of those kind of fan experiences where he gives a big old chat and opportunity to get some signatures and photos, but there's also a kind of exhibition race. And I can't work, or the website. Now, Kaylee, maybe you could have a word with the website designers.
Given my exceptional...
Given your exceptional experience.
HTML skills.
So their website is so big that it is impossible to navigate. So many it looks great, but it's
so big.
It's so many graphics and videos and things that you can't stop from happening. So like kind of little graphic kind of animations and everything autoplays, and it goes, I can't do this. And I have decent internet some of the time, except when it's. But yeah, so I decided I couldn't find an actual definitive answer to my questions. However.
The Slovenians and the Italians are right next to each other, so that makes sense, because the Italians do the same thing. They love Flash to this day.
Flash. Well, it's also Pogačar. But yeah, so I'll try and put it as concisely as possible. It's basically about 1,000 amateurs turn up with the opportunity to do a mass start. It's kind of a mass start time trial. Now, I can't tell whether it's a 25-kilometre lead-in or it's an 8-kilometre lead-in to a 15-kilometre climb. But anyway, it's a short, flat lead-in to a 12 or 15-kilometre climb, depending who you ask, which is about a 7.5% gradient. The climb on which Pogačar won his first youth race in 2009, which makes me feel old, because that doesn't feel like very long ago. But yeah, so all 1,000 amateurs set off, and then about 5 minutes later, again, might be 4, might be 6, nobody can agree. And then Pogačar sets off with Domen Novak, who gives him a lead out into the bottom of the climb. But yeah, so Pogačar passed, I think, 1,187 amateurs on this 12-kilometre climb, except 40-year-old full-time lawyer, father of, I think, 2, Andrew Feather. Yeah. So I think he must have had about a minute and a half, but at the finish, by the time that Pogačar actually. So the idea, the idea is obviously that Pogačar is flying up this hill, and there are another 1,000 riders at the top. Another 1,000 fans at the top of the climb waiting. There's a kind of expo village at the top of the climb, waiting with bated breath for their hero to come to the finish. And here comes Andrew Feather.
I mean, it's kind of a cool thing actually, it's a very cool thing to be riding up a climb. They must have a lane for Pogačar.
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Like a special pogey lane on the left or something like that. Because then you get to see how fast he actually goes.
Yeah, that's what Andrew
riding.
Feather said. Cycling Weekly had an interview with him this morning, and he said, Andrew has a long history in the UK hill climb scene. If anyone from the UK, especially anyone in the Bath area, you can't get close to a KOM anywhere that Andrew Feather has been. And he's a 4-time national hill climb champ. So he knows his stuff, he knows his stats, he knows his body. He said it's just really cool to see how you measure up to the best cyclist in the world, maybe ever.
Yeah.
So it's a cool idea. It's a cool concept.
So he didn't get caught. You said he might have a minute and a half.
No, so he completed the event in 44 minutes 15, and Poggy was 40:44. So I think he had a minute and a half in hand. Yeah.
So that means the climb times wouldn't have been that different.
See, that's the other thing, is I don't know whether the climbs, they can't, the various outlets that I read this morning, they can't decide whether it's the time for the climb or the time for the whole time trial. So I'm sorry, but I don't have the correct information. It's probably somewhere buried in a graphic on the website, but at this point I cannot find that
Is
information.
Andrew Feather on Strava? Can we go look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll figure this out. The point being that Pogačar got beat by a 40-year-old lawyer and is washed, and he should just retire. Right?
The end.
Let's call it there. I would imagine he liked this. I would imagine he liked that someone beat him.
I think he was in very good spirits.
Yeah. Well, we could talk a little bit about that. He was in very good spirits kind of all weekend.
Yeah. Although somebody did point out he didn't actually drink any of the Prosecco on the podium, which was a shame.
Well, he had to go beat Andrew Feather.
This is true.
Yeah. He had things to do.
But yeah, he did look much happier on the podium than he has done since beginning of July.
Well, and just like a bunch of sort of happy quotes too.
Yeah.
Like he was just saying things that certainly sound to my ear like he's in a much better place. He also talked a bit, and we've got this on the red sheet. We talked about this. He talked a bit about the sort of tour ennui that we have mentioned previously. The post Tour de France or even mid Tour de France sense that he was not having any fun. He pointed to the crash, which some folks might remember. He overlapped wheels and went down and hit his knee, right?
Yeah, and which then reared its head on Ventoux a few days later.
And so pointed at sort of various things, as well as like illness, which I think we had already been aware of. Various reasons why he was just having absolutely no fun.
It's funny that to think of that crash, like that my memory of that crash is, oh my God, Pogačar's down. Oh, he's fine. And then that's the end. I didn't think about it anymore. And the funny thing is that if that crash had happened to me, I would just tell all my friends, "Oh my God, a crash was horrible." And
I'm not riding for a week.
it would ruin me, and I'd just be bummed. And so I'm like now thinking like, oh, I guess kind of makes sense that it would bum him out for a little while. It probably didn't feel very good. So
who's the rider that he touched?
Tobias Johannesson, who was absolutely miserable. I was going to say miserable, but that sounds derogatory. He was devastated.
Yeah. Well, he was also getting.
He was getting absolute. Yeah.
To the point that Pogačar had to tell his fans to back off.
Unnecessarily, because it was a racing moment. He was going around the same corner.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't relitigate that. But
we don't need to talk about Tour de France. Hey, the point being, the reason to bring it up is it was good to sort of see Pogačar back to a happy-go-lucky self, and to kind of explain that kind of 4 to 6 weeks of being grumpy.
Ennui, that's a good word that you used.
Ennui is the word that we've used a lot.
Yeah, we don't need to relitigate the don't take pictures of me jersey incident and things like that. But the vibes were bad for a while there, and the vibes are now good again, which I think is good for. It's not only just good for Pogačar. Like, yay, we like to see that he's just back in a good place. As human beings, I think we can be happy about that. It's also good for the sport.
Yeah.
Because grumpy ennui
when you're the dominant
Pogačar
rider.
is not a good look for the broader sport as a whole.
Can I? I might have made myself unpopular here, but how do we feel about the end of season? Now I'm going to use a word that might. This is the word that might get me into trouble. Excuses. Why couldn't we know earlier that he might have had a knee injury?
Well, I think at the time he's probably trying to hide it from Visma.
Yeah,
right?
Visma was telling everyone that Vingegaard was sick.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, there's a sort of a weird divide. Like sometimes teams are willing to tell you their excuses; they're very happy to tell you their excuses, and other times they're trying to hide things.
I mean, but the cynicism that happens in my head when I read this, and like you said, and we've all had crashes, and they hit you, obviously, and they usually have an effect a few days after they've happened, and it lingers, especially if you are continuing to punish your body. But there's something that in my head that goes, would you rather have a retrospective knee injury than be a dick?
Yeah, that is a cynical approach. Like view of this. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, but I just
I
just think he was in a bad place. I
Yeah.
don't think he was trying to be a dick.
No. But that's what I mean. Is that would he rather the story be he was being a pain because he had a knee injury, or because he just was a bit grumpy? And I think even if regardless of a knee injury, him being grumpy on the podium, as much as I would like him to have at least cracked a smile on the podium, where that's where you celebrate.
Yeah.
I completely understand. You are the best in the world. And Dane, in your preview last week, there wasn't even anybody in the next level of stars. He was so far above everybody that there was not even a second place favourite.
I think the odds were he was 2/7, which is the shortest odds I've ever seen for anyone in a one-day race. I've never seen that before.
I've never been in a position of dominance like that, but it can't be particularly gratifying or particularly satisfying to win so easily, repeatedly. And which is probably why he's now clearly, even with the rumours already circling about his season next year, that he's actually now going for the storyline and the records, like skipping Paris-Roubaix, which I don't think he'll do. However, skipping Paris-Roubaix would mean he'd put more time into going to Tour of Flanders and matching the 3 times, and going to Liège, where he would get closer to the maximum number of wins there. And so he's actually starting to find ways to take advantage of his dominance rather than actually have to race. Does any of that make any sense?
It does, but Kid, I don't buy that you don't understand it, because you are so far in the lead of the Skate Collective Mothers Collective, and the sort of collective love from all of our mothers. My mother, Abby's mother,
I see.
Probably Dane's mother. But I feel like you do understand that level of dominance, and I don't think you can just shove that to the side.
I don't have a response to that.
We're going to move on to the Dutch versus the Dutch at Gravel Worlds. This was just stupid.
It's depressing.
I just don't get it. I'm sure we don't know yet, because I don't think they've recorded yet, but I'm sure that Wheel Talk is going to dive into this more than we will. So we're gonna slightly skim over it, but basically, the Gravel World Championships happened over the weekend. The women's race was basically, there's 47 Dutch women in this race. I don't really understand the Gravel World. It's great. It's a long cyclocross race. That's basically what it is. It does pull in a fair number of roadies, as happened on the men's and women's side, but on the women's side in particular, the Dutch dominated. And then just chased each other down.
Yeah.
So Lorena Wiebes ended up winning off the back of a lead out from one of her teammates.
No, it wasn't one of her teammmates.
Who was the lead out?
Well, actually, no. So Julia Kopecky, who is Czech, is a teammate of Lorena Wiebes. Trade teammate. So she did a lot of work until the kind of last kilometre or so. But then it was Jara Kastelein, who I believe is on Fenix de Koning. Who was doing the chasing, that she is the rider on the front, as you see Shirin van Anrooy with about 500, 600 metres to go.
Yeah.
And you've got Jara Kastelein, Lorena Wiebes, Marianne Vos, and Sylvia Persico. Now, Jara Kastelein has said, apparently Jara Kastelein and Shirin van Anrooy were roommates in Rwanda, which is really sad. But so apparently Yara Castellane didn't realise that Silvia Persico was on Marianne Voss's wheel, so she thought that if she chased down Sharon van Anrooy, then she might get a chance at a podium
For herself.
for herself.
Yeah.
But
Didn't work out that way.
Basically, the Dutch just chased each other. They still won.
yes, but Lorena Wiebes doesn't need another bloody win.
Exactly.
She's not going to wear the jersey.
Yeah, it was just. It was.
It was
kind of
brutal.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, we
It
should
was
say,
sort of-
the weird circumstances of this race, like the start list at this race had as many Dutch women on it as you would expect from any race if the Dutch weren't
Right.
capped at a certain number of riders, right?
Yeah, I think it was maybe 15, 16.
It was like,
I think it was
40
more than
something.
that. Yeah, I think it was more
In the men's race it was.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Was that what it was?
The men's race you just keep scrolling, and they're at
Either way, it was like double what you, even if
Yes.
it was 15, 16, it was like double what you'd get at a Worlds for a road race.
yeah.
But they also weren't racing as a national
No.
team, supposedly.
But they're still racing for their nations.
Which just makes it weird that then there was this chasing down incident. So,
Yeah, I do understand. I mean, yeah, and Lawrence Ten Dam, who is the national team coach, he said that he's actually worried about his future role as the road team coach, because obviously he's got to rally a team around the leader for the Worlds and the Europeans. He's had a busy 3 weeks. I don't know. I mean, he's basically a childminder at the Gravel Worlds then, because if there's no strategy and it's just every rider for themselves. But anyway,
Then why are they all
he
wearing
made
the
that.
same jersey?
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is I get every rider for themselves, but then Lorena Wiebes has got to do the work. Why would you drag Lorena Wiebes to the
right.
line?
Yeah, that is the weird
Right.
part.
Yeah, and if you see an orange jersey ahead of you, you go, "Oh, great, we're going to win,"
Yeah,
and you leave them to it.
just embarrassing. The whole thing
Yeah.
was embarrassing.
It's depressing.
Like I said, there's going to be more on that on Real Talk.
Yeah.
You should go check out that episode this week. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a couple news hits and we've got carbon monoxide back in the news. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Should we start with carbon monoxide? I think we should. Story in the Times over the weekend.
The London Times.
The London Times, not the New York Times.
Was it the Sunday
By-
Times?
It was the Sunday Times.
Because I saw
think
the,
so.
the Wiggins story last week was on a Friday, and it was the Sunday
Yes,
Times.
but
and
this
that
this weekend was the monoxide story that Ian posted in Slack was Sunday
Yeah.
Times.
Sunday Times. Okay.
Yeah, so from reporter Matt Lawton. Basically, if we have to sum it up as quickly as possible, Ineos, at the beginning of last year, so this is a couple months after we ran our report at the Tour de France, around carbon monoxide and the fact that it was being used to do this HB mass testing as well as potentially more. Lots of teams told us at various times, yes, we didn't. Yes, we used it, or no, we didn't. Right? There were a couple that we were able to confirm that did use it. Matt Lawton was able to confirm that Ineos used the HB mass testing essentially like 10 days before the ban came into place for what they were doing. And basically what they were doing that the UCI has since disallowed is they were doing it twice within minutes. I'm not entirely sure what the difference between those two tests would be. But anyway, there's some lovely details in this one, like it happened in room 101.
And that it was a bunch of teenagers.
It was a bunch of teenagers at a Spanish hotel owned by Alexander Kolobnev. I didn't know that it's not a name that I've heard in quite some time.
He's still around.
Yeah, so anyway, the point of kind of bringing this up again, and the point I think of the interesting thing about Matt's story is that teams clearly were/are still using this technique. Lawton described it as controversial. We have also described it as controversial. The reason it's controversial and the reason why I'm glad that other reporters are continuing to dig on this stuff, just to remind everybody, is not necessarily the test itself, this HB mass test, right, which is essentially just used to determine how effective altitude has been. Most often, that's generally how the teams are using it. Although this particular instance, they weren't at altitude, so I don't know exactly why Ineos was doing this in February of last year. But the sort of the theoretical extension of that is if you did this test a lot, you could see performance gains. And that's the thing that we were kind of raising the red flag about when Ronan wrote that initial piece in the Tour de France of, 2024, right? And so, yeah, it's worth just keeping an eye on, because that has since been banned. The UCI has come in and said, you can't do this. And Ineos, right before that ban went into place, did something that would currently contravene the ban. And I think that's worth digging on. And like I said, I'm glad that Matt has put this piece together. It's got some fascinating details. I'm really intrigued by who that source is. Did you guys get a chance to read it?
Just the high level, the big news. Well, the 101. I saw the 101 thing too. That was such a weird, funny detail.
Yeah,
it's a very weird, funny. Like, somebody, whoever the source was there, right? Yeah. Like, knew what room it was in, had all these sort of funny details.
Which is bad news for Ineos if they're up to anything shady, because this person is definitely going to go tell.
Well, especially in light of other recent interviews.
Well, you mean the Geraint Thomas stuff?
And Bradley Wiggins saying that was thrown under a bus.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, we don't need to spend too much time on this. We have talked about the carbon monoxide story for, I don't know, probably cumulative hours on this podcast. But we did want to bring it up. If you are a subscriber to the Times, you can go check that out from Matt Lawton. It raises a number of questions for me. One of the biggest of which is, did our reporting actually cause teams to start doing this? Right?
Yeah, you've let them know this is a thing, and now they're gonna.
Because I talked to a couple GMs during the reporting of that initial piece, and they had never heard of it. At least they told me they'd never heard of it. Ineos said at the time that they had never done it. They told us that. We asked for comment, that's on the record. But then they were doing it in February the following year.
So this is kind of Escape's fault, basically.
I don't think we can put it that way, because the UCI still put some rules around this particular test, carbon monoxide inhalation, which I think is a good thing, and certainly the sport has sort of keeping an eye out for it more than they were previously. But it's an interesting thought that I don't really know what to think about that, to be perfectly honest.
And on that note, real quick, I mean, you mentioned earlier if you do the rebreather test over and over again, it potentially has performance-enhancing benefits. The point being that if you breathe in a lot of carbon monoxide, it can actually be a performance enhancer.
Yep.
We should point out the reason that's not okay. Like, listening to the performance process can be a performance enhancer. That can make you better.
It's true.
But the reason this isn't okay is because it's breathing carbon monoxide, right? So that's
which can kill you.
That's why we don't really want this to be something that people do, especially teenagers. You don't want them to be breathing carbon monoxide. So, anyway,
so there was another detail in Matt Lawton's piece about at least one rider coming away from that test feeling a bit ill and dizzy.
Yeah, no work.
Surprising. Wow.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But we were told by all the scientists doing this that wasn't possible.
Isn't supposed
to
be.
It's too small.
That the amounts were too small. That it was totally
okay.
safe. And so, these things do start to look at this and go, not all of this is adding up, right? What we're being told by some of the people implementing these tests, but what we're being told by the teams keeps changing and keeps not lining up with further reporting. And that, as a journalist, it raises red flags in the back of your head to go, this is something that needs further attention. So yeah, this just dropped over the weekend. Having a chance to obviously chat with Matt about this. He did mention Escape Collective numerous times, which thank you for the reference, I suppose, in a major newspaper. But yeah, let's leave it there. Again, we've talked about the CO test many, many times. Just wanted to highlight it and say that the sort of, I guess, the journalism establishment is still keeping an eye out for this sort of thing. And in particular, Lawton has been good about he's dug up plenty of Ineos stuff over the years, and this is just the latest. Let's move on to another Ineos story. Sweet Kevin Vogtland is finally confirmed, headed over to Ineos. Do we like this move? Is this good?
It makes sense after the bunch of other French moves that have been announced lately.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Dorian Godon. There was somebody else as well. I've forgotten.
in
Axel.
general, I'm happy that Vogtland is going to go to a team that
exists.
That exists, exactly. I mean, it's a real sad thing that I think a lot of the riders on Arkea, which is a World Tour team for now, they're not going to have a job next year. So it's nice that Kevin Vauquelin has that lined up. I mean, that's not a surprise. He was 7th at the Tour de France. He's not going to suddenly disappear. But yeah, as teams go, I think Ineos is not. It's not the perfectly ideal destination because they are kind of a shit show sometimes. But also they're better than it's probably better than Movistar, right? So like I think he's in a better spot than Keanu Brooks.
I would say so.
On the spectrum of where you'd want to go.
Yeah. It also speaks to the Total Energies link more and more. And obviously this is something that we've talked about a bit before, and we're not sure what the actual outcome is going to be. But, Ineos has now got the French national champion, who was going to be the French national champion for 6 months of his first year in Ineos kit. They've also signed probably the best hope for at least a top 5 at the Tour de France for the next few years. Well, poor success. But anyway, the more mature version of said category of riders. And also, Kevin Vauquelin came second at Flèche Wallonne. He's got one-day racing in his legs.
He's real good.
He's a great rider for all year round, and he seems like an interesting guy too. I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about Ineos needing a revamp for years, but they are actually. I mean, we talked about retirements earlier, and we should at some point in this podcast mention Arnaud Démare. But we'll get to that. That's not the place for now. But there were 3 Ineos retirements this weekend: Salvatore Puccio, Omar Fraile, and Castroviejo, who joined, of course, Geraint Thomas. So there's a lot of what's the polite way of saying this?
Turnover.
Okay, turnover is a great word. Better than deadwood. But yeah, so there's a lot of change happening over at Ineos. I don't know. I think I'm certainly curious. And at least Vauquelin does. There is going to be some interesting. I don't know. It's becoming more French, and that's definitely intriguing.
More French, and then those riders that you mentioned, Axel Laurence and Dorian Godin, are riders that, as you said with Flèche Wallonne, they could do stuff on the wider calendar. So that's good. I think Ineos needs that because they're not going to win the Tour de France next year. So you might as well go out and get riders who can podium at a one-day race. Yeah. And I like that for sure.
I think I said this during this year's tour, but I actually feel like Vauquelin is a potential podium contender at the tour with better support. And the sort of the indicator of that for me was that time trial. Where
he was bloody good in the time trial, wasn't he?
He was really good in the TT, and he was doing it without the TT. Like today, time trials they're not entirely determined by preparation, but they are. And by preparation, I mean like wind tunnel testing and the equipment available to you and stuff like that. But they are basically, it's one of those you pretty much can't win them without that at this point. And I think it's pretty safe to say that the team he was on, the equipment he was on, did not.
Whoa! As a Bianchi guy, come on, all right.
He will have been one of maybe the only guy to have had a look in for any sort of any time at all, whether it was wind tunnel or if there was some guy with a ruler. I don't know how these things work, but he will have been top of the list. But absolutely, there will be significant investment put into him.
I think his bike brand too, even as someone who loves his Bianchi, is a little bit less.
The thing is, it's not even like is the Bianchi frame fast? It's not even
his position.
No, right? No. It's all, and it's not even like he did go to the wind tunnel. He spent a whole day in the wind tunnel last winter. Doesn't matter if you don't have a Dan Bigham or like one of those kind of figures in the team working on this. Literally, like that's his entire job is to find seconds for Remco Evenepoel next year. Right. Yeah. That individual does not exist.
Okay.
No, and so it's not just the equipment. It's the whole system and how they put all that together and the prep and all these other things. And so the fact that I forget, did he finish like 5th or something in that time trial?
He was 5th in the first time.
He was 5th. The flat one.
Yeah. The flat one. Yeah. That you put him in. If you put him in Red Bull with Dan Bigham, he's probably 2nd.
Yeah.
Right? And so I yeah, that's why I'm, who knows, because we said similar things about like, oh, Victor Lefay had an incredible year. He won a couple stages. He's going to do crazy things, then he just sort of falls off the face of the planet, right? You never know what's going to happen with elite athletes, and the percents here and there. He's going into a team and a language isn't, at least as of last summer, didn't speak particularly well. There's lots of things that could derail that progression. But
including just being French. I mean, not and I mean that in relation to the Tour de France. Romain Bardet. No, I mean related to the Tour and the pressure. Thibaut Pinot, Romain Bardet, Warren Barguil, they've all had difficult relationships with the Tour.
But they didn't have Dave B there to elevate them to that level that they weren't able to reach yet in their career.
But Dave B does speak French, which is helpful.
And there you go. So I think that's helpful. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, this is one of those moves I am personally excited about.
Yeah.
Because I desperately want a really good French rider at the Tour again. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's absolutely crucial.
That Alaphilippe year
it's just absolutely crucial for the sport. It makes the whole, not just the Tour, it makes the whole sport more fun when you've got those individuals, right? And we've just lost a number
probably
of them.
Makes the whole sport, like, to go back to Lafrique, it probably makes the whole sport safer as well. And I mean, financially, if it all comes back to the Tour and France, you need Frenchmen.
Exactly. Yeah. No, for sure. We don't need to go back.
Sorry, Kevin, for the pressure we've just smashed on your shoulders.
Well, it's spread out a little bit, right? It's him, it's Seixas, it's There's a couple of them. Let's go over to another Frenchman on the way out. Demar.
Arnaud Demar.
You've got, I think, Kit, you put this in the run sheet.
Yeah, I did.
It says in parentheses, looking back, he was bloody good.
Yeah, he was.
Which I think is correct.
Well, he's got 97 wins to his name. So very similar rider to Alexander Kristoff, who, of course, retired by crashing out last weekend on 98. And we love Kristoff. I think we should love Demar for similar reasons. And he's also historically, he's the fourth, I'm going to use my most hated word in cycling, winningest Frenchman.
That's your most hated word? Wonderful.
Honestly, I think it might be up there.
Wow. Okay.
Mine is when people from the islands say hotting up.
Oh, hotting up is... Yeah, there's already a verb.
What about sensations? But no, winningest takes the biscuit, I think, out of those examples. But no, so he only 3 riders in history. So obviously, before anyone ats me, there's generations of French cyclists whose races will be unreported. And I'm going off the Pro Cycling Stats all-time statistics, and even Laurent Jalabert has managed to change his position of late, which obviously is impossible. But it's because there are, they're doing their research, they're going back and they're looking at other races. So this is going to change. But there are 3, but 97 is a big number, and very few have actually got to that level. And it's Bernardino, Jacques Anquetil, and Raymond Poulidor are the only riders to have exceeded, only French riders to have exceeded 97 wins in all time. He was an amazing rider, especially on French soil. He won 2 Tour de France stages.
And Italian soil.
And I was getting there. And like a lot of Frenchmen, he thrived elsewhere. 2 points jerseys at the Giro. But yeah, I don't know. He's one of those kind of slightly enigmatic, but kind of universally likable guys who just, when he wins, he really seems to really, really enjoy it. And you can't say that for all sprinters. People who get 97 wins, quite often they're like, yeah, I've done it again.
I kind of disparaged him. I think it was in last Friday's show regarding the Milan San Remo.
Yeah, that is the sticking point for me.
We should say that it's not really proven. Like there's
no, it's not
Cosmo's
proven,
got some deep video breakdown somewhere that you should watch. Where it's
I do remember.
You come away thinking, actually, I think he probably would have won it. So
okay, but there's some dubious decision making at times. It's whatever. But
I don't trust
still
deep video breakdowns, Dane. That's it's just YouTube's a terrible place.
All right. In general, though, I think he also
I do trust Cosmo though.
As potentially untoward ways of getting an advantage go. Taking a long sticky bottle in cycling,
Well, he had crashed
Yeah,
as well.
no, my point though is that there's a lot of worse things you can do to get a small
true.
edge in cycling than taking a sticky bottle.
Yeah.
So,
No, so I mean, without labouring the point too greatly, but yeah, I don't know. I was just reminded, particularly because I think one of the things, recency bias is certainly a thing in day-to-day life and in sport. But so he had that quite kind of unceremonious exit mid-season from Groupama FDJ, which he'd spent with whom he'd spent, I think, his entire career up until that point. Which almost 12 years. Yeah. So he spent and then he went over to Arkea. I think he took 3 wins with Arkea, but it never, and maybe we weren't really expecting it, but this was still in the era of Cavendish. Cavendish was still around and winning stuff, so there was no reason to completely doubt him. But you've got that kind of the 2.5 years he spent with Arkea in slightly sad circumstances that have meant
nothing this year, right? I don't think he won anything this year.
No, I think his last win was at Poitou-Charentes this time last year. But yeah, he finished. What I love about his retirement announcement was that he said, "The team asked me to go to China. I said no. I'm going to Paris Tour. It's my favourite race."
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah,
he doesn't need to go to punishment Guangzhou. Come on.
Yeah.
Go hang out with Johnny for a week.
Chapeau, bonne retraite. Oh no, it's been a good run.
Yeah, good for him. He was a great rider. He was a fantastic rider. He was always pretty easy to deal with as well. I always appreciate that in our line of work. Yeah. Speaking of Guangxi, that's where Johnny is right now.
Yeah, that's why Johnny's not here.
That's why he's not here. I think he'll be back on Thursday's show. If we can figure out how to get past the Great Firewall, we'll see. Maybe just saying that out loud will prevent him from ever getting past the Great Firewall. We'll see how that goes. I think we should head to After Dark because it's time. It's just time. We've got some things to talk about in After Dark. We got some book club to talk about. We've got some discussion of our own holiday plans to talk about in After Dark. If you do want to join us in the book club, if you want to join us, well, just more generally, and you really should, you need to head to escapecollective.com/join, get access to the members-only podcast, the members-only feed. I had somebody reach out the other day who couldn't figure out how to get on the members-only feed. If you are in that same bucket, you can email me or email Andy, info@escapecollective.com or editor@escapecollective.com. We'll get you sorted out because we do know it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not hard, but there are a couple stumbling blocks that people occasionally run into. So yeah, if you are a member and you would like to get into that feed, shoot me an email. We'll sort you out. Let's head into After Dark.